So let's talk about Zdav. Hi, I'm Dr. Francis, a world-renowned wildlife nutritionist. You may not have heard of me, but your gibbon sure has. So let's talk about exotic proteins and which one you should be feeding your dog and cat today. Ooh, 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 ooh. That was perfect. Exotic proteins are all the rage right now. We're seeing all of these cool and exotic, not just proteins, but animal parts as well. So if you're on fellow TikTok community looking at all of these homemade diets, you're gonna see crocodile, you're gonna see quails, you're gonna see possums, you're gonna see any animal you could think of, and any part of that animal, yes, I mean a cow penis, you'll see anything, and guess what? Most of it is all pretty good for your dog and cat. But which ones would be the best? So here I reveal my top 5 recommendations for exotic proteins. Exotic proteins are great because they're less likely to cause a sensitive reaction or an allergic reaction to your dog or cat. It doesn't mean they're hypoallergenic. It doesn't mean that no animal on the planet will be allergic to it. It just means that it's less likely. So if you are having a lot of issues in your dog or cat and you kind of don't know what to feed them, then you want to consider some exotic proteins. You'll want to feed it for at least 6 weeks because yes, let's say you give one little piece of chicken to a dog or cat that is sensitive to that, they may have symptoms for up to 6 weeks, even though you only gave a little piece. So it takes some time sometimes for the organism to kind of get rid of that and to calm down their hyperimmune reaction. And also keep in mind, they could be allergic to any ingredient, not just the protein, but usually the protein is where we start because it is the most common source of allergies. But technically it could be anything. I don't want to scare you. Let's go back to talking about proteins. My 5th favorite exotic protein is quail. Quail is a super cute little bird, but it's also very nutrient dense. It's much more nutrient dense than a chicken, which is what we usually would compare with since they are both birds. They are higher in zinc, in copper, in iron than chicken. The only thing that chicken is a little bit better at is selenium, but a lot of that also depends on the diet that the chicken was reared. What's great about quails is it's more common to find pasture-raised quails that was foraging, they had to eat some insects, they had to eat some grass, some seeds. So generally you're also gonna get a better omega-3 ratio with quail meat as compared to chickens. So quail are fantastic if your dog likes birds. My 4th favorite protein is rabbit. Rabbit is the leanest of all the proteins. When we're just talking about meat, we're not talking about specific organs. Just rabbit meat is the leanest and lightest caloric density meat that exists out there right now, which is really cool if you wanna make sure that your pet is feeling full, high in protein, but lose a little bit of weight because it's super low in fat. And it's so low in fat that you may end up having to add in a little bit of fish or a little bit of supplements or even a little bit of oil or seeds just to increase that fat content to make sure that it meets requirements for your dog or cat. It's super nutritious, it's high in iron and zinc and B vitamins. It's really a powerhouse of nutrients. It's a little bit hard to find and it's definitely expensive depending on where you are on the planet. But if you can order it online frozen in bulk, that usually is the best deal. But rabbit is great. It's also good if your pet has any kidney issues because it's naturally lower in phosphorus as well. My 3rd favorite protein is crocodile or alligator. Yes, you can buy crocodile alligator meat, and yes, it's totally edible once it's cooked. This is one that is a little bit more risky if you feed it raw. You can, a lot of people feed especially the tail, but that's just a little bit of a risk here. So this one we definitely recommend that you cook it first. The reason why I love it is because it is so exotic that out of all the meats, the likelihood of your dog or cat being allergic or sensitive to this is the lowest of any exotic meat that I've ever worked with. But the cons is that it's not that nutritious compared to a red meat. So it's not that high in zinc or it's not that high in iron. It's really good in B vitamins and some other nutrients, but you will need some other ingredients to really round out all the nutrients that your pet needs. It's also a bit more expensive because it's not a very common meat yet. So that's why crocodile is number 3, not number 1, because yes, it's amazing for allergies, but because you're missing some nutrients and it's still super expensive, it just cannot hold the number 1 spot. But absolutely something you should consider, especially if you tried everything else, crocodile is your secret weapon. Number 2 is venison. Venison is super nutritious. It's leaner than beef, about half the amount of fat as beef. And because pretty much all of them are grass-fed, you have an amazing omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. You probably may not even need to add in some salmon or some omega-3 supplements when you have a diet that is high in venison or deer. But it is still quite expensive and not so easy to find at the commercial butcher. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere and you can go hunting and get your own deer, fantastic. If you only get 2 deer, you have enough food for a full year for your dog or cat. Maybe even longer for a cat, actually. Venison is a fantastic choice, and it's very gamey, has a very special smell that most dogs and cats love. You may not, but they will. And my favorite exotic protein is kangaroo. This is not really a surprise because it's becoming more and more common, but it is still considered a novel protein. It's really low in fat, it's high in omega-3s, it's super nutritious. It's really good for pets that need to lose weight as well. And it's really good if they have allergies or sensitivities. And because it's becoming more and more common, it's now the most affordable out of all these different exotic meats. And now you can pretty much just buy it at a butcher. But what's interesting is that it seems to be even more popular for pets than for humans. And I think legislation has a part to play here, but your pets love it. But because it's becoming more and more common, at some point it will no longer be considered exotic. But for now, this holds the #1 spot because it's nutritious, it's easy to find, and it's affordable-ish based on all the exotic proteins. Well, I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you some ideas of new proteins to try. Hopefully your pet doesn't have all these allergies, but if they do, now you have something that you can try. Thanks, subscribe, like this video, follow us on Instagram and on TikTok, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.